Hello everyone and welcome to another YI video for Starsector. As you can see, it is a top-down space combat slash exploration, realm 'em up. I'm not quite sure how you describe this type of game. The closest I could probably associate this title from, I think most people will understand, would be something like Mountain Blade Warband. A completely open sector of space that has been cut off from the rest of what was the human empire, and after a great cataclysmic combat war that happened with basically rogue AI, and you are now a lone freelance captain in this sector trying to scrape out a living amongst numerous factions that exist in the core world, but there are many unexplored or unconquered systems out there for you to go out and find what could be lurking out beyond. So basically, Starsector is a title that you're not going to find on any of the major storefronts. It's not on Steam, it's not on GOG, it's not available on Epic Games Store, like most things. And so you will only find it on the Starsector website. If I'm smart, I will link it for everyone to see. And it's, in my opinion, well worth picking up. It's about $13. It's not a huge amount of cash. It's a game that has been in development for many years now, by a lone dev who has done a phenomenal amount of work. There are numerous factions within the game that you can work for, or even join one or two of, I believe. But essentially, you are supposed to largely be a kind of independent entity within this sector of space, and what you do sort of is entirely up to you. If you want to be a pirate, you can. There are numerous pirate bases dotted around the map where you can find a safe haven. You can buy and sell ships, and obviously become things like drug smuggler, weapons smuggler, that kind of thing, harvest organs, all the rest of it, sell them, make a profit, be chased down by the local militia forces and the militaries. There's also independent factions out there, just other worlds like your own, that will just be trying to scrape a living amongst these much larger factions. You have the fuel dictatorship in the Syndrian Diktat, basically a couple of systems that are held by basically like a mega fuel consortium that basically dictate the prices of the space fuel that everyone needs to get around the system. The Solar sort of cyberpunk style corporation in Tritachyon, who do a lot of work with AI and other advanced systems. And then you've got the crazy religious types in the Luddic Church, who are, as the name suggests, are all Luddites who blame AI for the fall of everything, and they should basically go back to a more meager style of living. And then, as an offshoot from the Luddic Church, you also have the much more radical types in the Luddic Path, who are basically hated by everybody. And then you have the two probably major factions of the whole game. You have the Hegemony, and the Persean League. Basically, the Persean League are a conglomerate of systems that have a opposed view, let's say, to the Hegemony, and because of that, the two sides are never 100% friendly with each other. But what this translates to is that there are numerous factions in the game's setting that you can work for. Any system or space station or whatever that you land at allows you to go to a bar, you can take missions, and you can improve your standing with a faction. And the higher your standing gets, obviously, the better sort of payouts. You can then eventually get to a point where, similar to a game like Mountain Blade, you can work for them on commission. And this is one of the best ways of being able to have a regular income of cash, because their enemies become your enemies, and if you attack them and destroy them, you get a bounty payout, and then you can start to be able to buy other more important items for your ships, and being able to buy entirely new ships and stuff like that, and sort of build from there. And one of the end kind of, or mid-game goals, I'd say, not end goal, but mid-game, is finding a system of your own and colonizing it, and then beginning a whole new set of challenges where you are then upgrading that colony, and you're adding new facilities to it, and basically starting to build your own ships, for instance, have your own patrol fleets going about, having to deal with pirate incursions of your own, or depending on what you're doing, say you get particularly high up in the fuel production area, the Syndrian Diktat might start sending fleets over to start harassing your operations. If you start using AI cores that you can find around different areas of the system, then you will bring on the ire of not only the hegemony but also the Ludic Church, who will start to view you as a heretic, and they'll start attacking you. Pirates are a regular threat, and they will continually come and go as you have to basically smack down their systems and destroy their little outposts and stuff that they built nearby to start raiding you and gear like that. And the game can just be like a big open-ended churn, and obviously in longer campaigns you can do things where you can have many different systems all set up, all running different operations going on mining sector, food production, organics, weapons production. And as I said, you can get to the point where you can start to build ships because you can find blueprints in different locations. And the game is just really, really fun. There's a lot to do. I mean, being able to refit any ship however you please, because there's a kind of... It reminds me a lot of games like MechWarrior and stuff like that, for instance, where a ship has so many hard points of varying sizes, and equipping weapons and mods to your ship will improve it in many different ways, whether you want them to be more of an anti-missile craft that protects against fighters and missiles that are fired by the opposing ships to help protect the fleet. So you could have a large ship that's built around being a fleet defense platform, or one that's a sniper. You can have numerous different classes of ship as well, going from things like frigates to destroyers to cruisers of various sizes, right up to battleships and battle carriers. And they can all come with different special abilities. And some of these things get huge, and so you can get into some pretty impressive fights as your sort of game ramps up, because your starts are limited in a new game. You can start with a half-decent fleet just to get you going right away, to being basically like a down and out with just a ship, to going up to being something that's somewhere a little bit mid, like a mercenary with a small fleet. And you need to make sure that your fleet, which is a maximum of 30 ships, is able to account for not just being able to effectively fight off other opponents, but you also need to have civilian ships. You need ships that can carry your crew and engineers and stuff. You need fuel vessels to be able to extend your range, how far you can travel there and back. And then you also need ones that can have cargo storage, not only for loot that you find in weapons and other materials that you can bring back to sell, that kind of thing, but also being able to store your supplies. Because the two most important factors in the game are supplies and fuel. If you don't have supplies, you can't repair your ships after combat, and you can't obviously travel, to and from a location. If you run out of fuel while you're traveling through hyperspace, you do end up in a scenario where you will be basically dragged to the nearest gravity well, and you end up in that system. You can send out an SOS beacon, which will eventually bring an AI fleet over. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes it's pirates, and you may have to fight them. But after every battle, there's always salvage to find. Salvage can sometimes be weapons, as I said. It can be heavy machinery, which is used for salvage operations and stuff like that. It can be fuel and supplies, which can be very useful. And what you end up getting into is a kind of loop of exploration and going to unexplored systems, scanning and hoping to find things like abandoned research facilities, mining platforms, former habitations, and you will strip these for parts, basically, whatever you can find, and then you're going to drag them back, and you're either going to use them on your colony, or you're going to be able to sell them, or you're going to refit your ships with stuff that you find. As I said, you can find blueprints for new ships, for hull mods, for weapon systems. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the basic loop. There's no end goal, so to speak. There is a campaign in the sense that there are numerous smaller factions that will have their own chain of missions. Pretty well written stuff as well, to be honest. A lot of the dialogue that you can engage in with the NPCs during these missions is quite good. It paints an interesting picture of the setting. And you can unlock new abilities on the grand map, which I won't spoil here for anyone who is interested in actually checking this out, because there is a lot to find just in the base game. But for me, and I think for many people who have played Starsector for a long time, is once you've done a few sort of runs on the vanilla game, you start to look at the mods. And modding Starsector is really, really easy. If anyone's interested in the comments below, I can link or just make a short video just talking about the very basic steps into getting into the modding, because really there's only two major things you have to do. One is just to change a couple of values in a notepad file, just to allow more memory to be used for the game, and I think the other one is literally just how big battles can be and stuff like that. And then it's mods are just, you just copy the file into the already existing mods folder. When you launch the game, you check the mods you want to run and off you go. And that's it. Mods open up the game very, very widely. You can add whole new factions to the map. You can add tons of new ships, weapon systems, fighters. I mean, there's a mod out there that's called Arma Armatura that allows you to control fighter craft and like mecha, like it's Gundam. There's the ability to add, as I said, entirely original factions with all of their own ships. There are mods to just add ships to all of the pre-existing factions. There's a mod called Nexarellan that turns the game into a full-fledged Mount and Blade type thing, where the different factions will actually invade each other. Because in the vanilla game, factions will be at war, but no systems ever change hands. In Nexarellan, entire campaigns can spin out where one faction, like the Persian League, can suddenly become incredibly dominant and just take over a huge section of the sort of core worlds. But it also allows other factions, for instance, to expand, and they will start to colonize other systems, and they move around. And the longer your game runs with some of these mods, the more diverse and interesting the galaxy can become, and who you decide to work for or help more. You can even conquer other colonies yourself and sort of become a major power, that kind of thing. So the mods really do open up Starsector massively, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's something that you would ignore the base game for, because there is still tons, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of hours worth of fun to be had with the base game, just different ways you want to play it. If you want to play it purely helping one of the major factions, whether you want to just become a space pirate who operates out in the fringes, colonizing systems for your own and building up like mega fleets to go out and just go on like vast raiding missions, that kind of thing, completing the campaigns, collecting all the ships. That's an interesting one too, because there are quite a few. And yeah, just coming up with just your own goals, because it's a completely open game, and I really think that genuinely do think that it's a game that needs more light shed on it. I think more people need to have a look at a game like Starsector. Graphically, yeah, it's not full 3D RTX, fucking badges out the arse or anything like that. It's just amazingly well put together. The combat is slick, the sound is great. It's a game that has so much kind of visual style to it with this top-down 2D ship systems, but the ships look gorgeous. The artwork for it is really, really nice. There's some really good music in there as well. And although it's a project that's still being developed actively, as I said, over a long period now, the game in its current state is more than playable. Tons of stuff for you to get on with. And because it isn't on a platform like Steam, the version, if there is an update for it, you don't have to update to the latest version until you want to. And that also goes for, obviously, mods, where you can just wait for the mods to be updated that you like, and then add them and update them for your game as you go along. And that's the really nice thing about it. So it's old school. It reminds me of what it used to be like with PC gaming. And there's a lot more. I could probably go into like traveling through hyperspace can be fraught with its own little perils of warp storms and stuff that you have to like make sure that you control your fleet through. It's cool that you can, if you zoom down, you can see all of the individual ships in your fleet as it's traveling across. There's some fun interactions you can have where you can be more knowledgeable about the Ludic Holy Book than some of the Ludic fleets, so if they do try to attack you, you can basically quote certain passages and it makes them sort of go, oh well, you clearly know what you're talking about, oh sorry to have bothered you brother, and they fly off. Or being able to sort of, as I said, work with the pirates, or getting in good with the Syndrian Dictat, or being like a full corpo with Tritachyon and getting access with higher rep to some of their best ships. Things like D-mods, where you can, you don't have to buy ships, for instance. I mean, before I forget, one of the coolest things is just hanging around near a fight between two factions and just seeing the little ships drift off the wrecks and then being able to go over and salvage that ship and add it to your fleet. But because it's been knocked out in combat, it means it's got demods on it, which those are things that are permanent debuffs that you then have to either pay to have removed individually from different from a shipyard that you go to, or you can get a skill, because there's RPG mechanics. There's so much to it. You can get skills that can remove demods on one of the tracks in the skill tree. You can officers within your fleet can be basically can be headhunted and then be added to your ships. I think there's a limit. I think it's 5, might be 8, between that number of officers that you can have. So each ship can have its own captain, and those captains also level up and they gain skills that you choose based around the build of the ship. So if you want an officer that does particularly well with ballistics, you pick ballistic skills, you put them on a ship that's got a load of big guns like that, and they're going to do even better. That kind of thing. And they have different styles. They can be reckless, timid, steady captains. Oh god, stuff like that. And as I said, the mods just open that up even more. If you want every single ship to have its own captain, mods will allow you to open up that area, being able to give yourself infinite skill points. So there's not, I think it's 15 is max normally, but if you want to have like the ability to unlock every single skill on the tree, you can through mods. There's just so much to it. Starsector is really, really good. It's probably a game at some point that I will probably get around to streaming as well. Just on a couple of the mornings for Thursdays, and just to sort of show it off. It's kind of chill at the same time as being intense when it gets to the combat. I really can't sort of talk up how much fun I've had with the game since I initially saw some of the videos to do with it, and yeah, it's just really, really fun. And it's such a It's an odd thing to be impressed with a game nowadays when I guess a lot of modern games now, you're looking for content per dollar, pound, euro, however much you're putting into it. It's like, is there going to be DLC for a season pass? Oh, am I going to wait for a sale? Blah, 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 all these kind of things. No, it's like, it is just fun. If you like sci-fi fleet combat games, this is one that you shouldn't pass up. It's really, really good, and for the price, I don't think you're going to be too disappointed even if it isn't for you. Sure, you can't do a Steam refund, but it is a title that once you have a key, it's your key. You can download the game and reuse your key on as many different systems as you want, as far as I can tell. I guess we're beyond taking the piss, obviously, I suppose, and I guess maybe the developer has a way of being able to see just how many times a key has been reused, but it just means if you've got a couple of PCs in your home or a laptop that you use regularly, you can just, it's downloadable. You can download the exe, the whole game, from the website. You just need to buy the key to use it. So and the game is tiny as well. That's the other nice thing about it. It's not very heavy on system load for modern systems. Anyway, back in the day, it used a lot of obviously your RAM, but nowadays most systems are pretty generous with RAM. Between like 32 gig isn't too unheard of, isn't unusual these days. So yeah, you just have like a really, really good solid game. I can't praise it enough. Technically I haven't had any issues with it myself, and yeah, it's dead easy to get into the mod side of it. If you want to go straight into that, you can, and yeah, it's just fun. It's really, really good. So Starsector, buy it. Buy it if you like this kind of game, and or just check out some videos of it. It's just fun. Yeah. So until then, have a good one. As always, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you all next time. And have a good one. Bye bye.